Welcome to Let's Write This Movie, where we write a screenplay
while sharing the process with the internet.
I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I'm your collaborator, Brian Glass.
Now, let's write this movie.
Oh, I have some things I was gonna... Okay.
Quality video right there, Brian. People reading. People silencing devices.
It's not going to... There's nothing silenced, and it's not going to be on the final version.
I kind of wanted to, just because I made that snarky comment, and now this is like the meta-analysis of it. Nothing here is unplanned.
Hold on just a second, all right?
People.
Hang on just a second. I'm going to go even more meta then. Yeah, that's right. You get...
All right, Brian.
Touche.
What? What was that?
Touche.
Oh. Three-shay. Oh. So, hello, Brian.
Hello, Renee.
It's been 2 weeks.
Dude,
it's been 2 weeks since something and something else. What was that? That's Bare Naked Ladies, right?
Yeah, it's crap, actually.
That's
yeah,
crap.
Same thing.
Yeah. No, I know. Sorry to
Absolutely.
our Bare Naked Ladies fans. I know there were many of you.
So many.
Yeah.
Great, man. We just lost an entire part of our audience. Thanks for that.
Exactly.
I apologize. That was really my fault.
Well, I think my rendition wasn't very good either. So, Brian.
Yeah, man. How you doing?
It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, and okay, fine. Yes, it's been 2 weeks. The reason it's been 2 weeks, I'll just start off the show with mea culpa. So, for those of you who did not read my nine-part Twitter message, last week, our beloved Brian, was away, could not make the show. So I decided, and this is something I've always wanted to do for, well, maybe not always, but I thought would be a nice change of pace for the show, is to reach out to filmmakers that I know, that I have access to. What was that, Brian? Did you say something?
No.
Oh.
Clear my throat.
Okay. That I know and interview them, right? And get their take on screenwriting, the filmmaking process, plug their projects, blah, blah, blah. So this director, this filmmaker I know out of Louisville, Kentucky, I was pronouncing it as Louisville because that's the way it looks to me as someone who's not from there. And then to hear him say Louisville, I was like, hey, sorry for mispronouncing your city. And he was very congenial about it. Anyway, that's all beside the point. So I had him on the show, and we were going to talk about his current film, which is called Wretch. It's available on demand and digital.
And what's his name again?
What's that?
What's his name?
His name is Brian Cunningham. So I encourage everyone watching to please check out his work. Anyway, so we spoke for an hour. I thought it was a pretty good interview and insightful, with an S, not a C. And unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but my software did not capture any of his audio. So we just have him where Brian is here, just talking and no audio at all. And when I was, I had that cold sweat moment when I put up the video file in my video editing software, and there were these just like valleys of flatness, and I was like,
uh-oh,
how can that be?
Yeah.
Wow. And I went to the original capture on my other machine, on this machine. It's just not there. It's not captured at all. So we've done several tests today before this episode, and everything seems to be fine. So hopefully I'm not going to run into that problem again.
The difference between the last show and this one, though, is that if I am just talking, and we're still going to publish it.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct, Brian.
No, you're wrong. You're absolutely not. I think we should do that show anyway. Cut my audio.
All right, let's do it. I'll mute you right now. So that's why it's been 2 weeks, if anyone noticed. And, in light of that, I was kind of, I don't know. Whenever there's like a really big mess up like that, especially if I'm the one who committed the mess up. I just want to throw it all away. And, I didn't like post to the site. I didn't tweet, nothing. I was just like, screw it. I did, however, work on the script, and having 2 weeks to work on it. I like the pages I turned out, though I wish I wrote more. But considering I had to, it was one of those, it was a series of pages. It was a series of pages that covered a scene that I only had an idea of, not the play-by-play like I normally do for the big scenes. Even though this is like an iconic moment, I only really had like the tail end of it that was iconic. So I think it played well, and we'll hear what Brian thinks of it. How were you? Go ahead.
I was going to respond to something that you said, or at least something that's adjacent to that. So I am on our website, which is letswritethismovie.com. And, I look every couple of days to see if there's going to be something there, because I noticed that episode 20 never actually had a blog article with it. I love the blog articles. I have to tell you, the reason I love them is because when I do the, when I get the pages from René, I get zero. I get nothing, not even a here, not even a René. There's nothing. It's just blank. So I'm like, okay, fine. If it's going to be like that, then I'll read the public version of this. Meanwhile, nothing on 20. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And finally, he sends me pages for 21, which is this episode. And I thought, well, let's see if you update the site. And sure enough, there it was, episode 20 in all its glory. Let me read it for you, shall I? This is good. This is a good YouTube channel show, right? This is good
you want me to pull up the site to go along with your dramatic read?
Please.
Okay. Let me just pull it up here, Brian. All right, hang on. Episode 20. All right.
Yeah, and I'm not going to read the tagline because it's really something that's always there. So I'm just going to read the body of this for those of you who are listening in only audio. Episode 20. Who cares? Now, the ironic thing, I would say ironic, is that the ironic thing to this is that if you look on the website and kind of scroll from top to bottom here, or maybe from, let's say from, this page, the home page, which goes from 12 to 21 right now, you'll notice that someone obviously does care about episode 20 because they put fireworks all over the damn thing. So I would say, René, me, I care. And even if that makes one of us, I care. I'm going to be asking for access to this site. I'm going to start writing on it.
I thought I did give you access.
I'll write a whole whatever. It's a professional thing. I wouldn't go on your toes unless you know.
What's funny is that first of all, Brian, thank you for caring. I care as well, but us caring, we don't count because we're the creators of this.
Then you got to give me the email, buddy. You got to give me something in the email. Something.
I see what you're saying. I don't even remember what I wrote for
you write nothing
episode 20.
Ever.
No. I don't remember what the pages were and like why here's really the real reason why I don't send you anything when I email you the pages. Okay, here's the real reason. Before I tell you the reason I was about to say, the real reason is because it's usually so late in the day,
and tired,
and I'm just like, screw it. Here you go.
I know.
Okay, but the fake reason I was about to tell you, this is the wishful thinking reason, is I don't want to suggest you.
Yeah, right.
Okay, there you go. See, exactly. You are allowed to say that since I was honest with you and saying this is not really the reason.
I knew it wasn't anyway because in the past you would go immediately to the public post, which would have everything I would really want anyway. So I think that your argument, fake, is moot.
Well, here's the thing, though. The public thing, that's up to you. That's up to you if you want to read that, right? If you want to like spoil it for yourself a little bit, hey, I can't stop you. But why should I deprive the public from getting the insight? Because that's the whole point of this project, right? It's to get the writer's insight.
Aren't there classes in college where you have to take the opposite view just to argue it? Debate. You have to take the opposite view, even if you don't agree with it at all. I feel like you're arguing with yourself about something you don't agree with at all.
Well, that's you got to have that ability. You got to be It's not, when I write about like murderers or whatever, it's like you got to write them honestly, right? So you have to embody the thing that you hate or the thing that you love.
Wow. All right. Great.
So, Brian,
Yes.
man, this is long banter.
Sorry, man.
No, it's fine.
Wow. We haven't talked for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, Brian. So it's your turn. What did you do with your time off?
Went on a little family vacation to Flagstaff, Arizona. Spent time in the snow. It was cold, but fun. It was nice. Nice little weekend getaway. So we don't usually do that. So that was our first little visit here since we moved, and it was really nice. It was nice to get away. It was much nicer to get back.
Exactly. So I know I've said this to you, Brian, before, but for everyone watching, my stance on travel is I don't like to travel. I think a lot of aspects of travel, it just sucks, regardless of the destination. And I think the best part of travel, and I will tell this to everybody, the best part of travel is coming home. So what do? I cut out the middleman, and I just stay home. I'm enjoying the best part of travel every day. Every day.
Every time I've gone to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that. I don't like leaving.
You don't like leaving Hawaii? Oh,
it's really nice.
Try living there, Brian, and then tell me.
No. I don't want to live there. But
see, that's exactly it. You only enjoy staying there because you know you're going to leave. But if someone said, Brian, you have to live there now, you'd be like, forget that.
Regardless, you still enjoy it. Doesn't diminish my enjoyment at all. Your truth.
Your truth? Ugh. All right.
I kind of like this. I kind of like that we're starting off kind of contentious. This should be a fun episode.
Uh-oh. That's no good. That's no good. I don't like to hear that.
Hey, René, can we move on to things that are actually applicable to writing and maybe not necessarily with this script, but maybe your experience? I'm curious about something that kind of that I've been experiencing as a first-time version of what you've been doing for quite a long time. So, and I wanted to get your take on it, and I wanted to wait until the show because I think it's fun to share these things. So the question I have is, I know that you're not the typical outliner, and that you really don't do treatments necessarily, but I know that you also have a phenomenal memory which makes up for that, which probably lets you kind of get through most of those chunks of the script in your head, and you can kind of write to that mental outline that I know you have, because I know you're always thinking about things, and I'm guessing that that's one of the real reasons you don't outline, is because you've got that memory that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the question I have is with regards to plotting, and have you ever like written yourself into a corner, like you've gotten to this point where you weren't exactly sure how you're going to get past it, and you figured just do it at the time, and then you get there and you're writing and you kind of have to stop and rethink things a little bit, and then that's kind of first, and then secondarily, when you're doing that, have you surprised yourself with kind of the direction or maybe the resolution to the issue that you kind of wrote yourself into? Have you had that experience?
Yes, I can point at, for the first part about like writing into, well, I guess what I'm assuming you're describing as kind of a dead end.
Not a dead end, but a kind of a point in the script where it can go any number of ways.
Oh,
and you aren't sure which way to go there because of you kind of know where you want to go, and you're not sure how to bridge that gap, so you kind of get to that stumbling point.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, then
like an inflection point.
I'll say that happens all the time. But to me, they seem so natural and organic to the writing process that I don't actually have like a specific example to give you. I thought your question, the way I was interpreting it, let me tell you the situation, and maybe we can work backwards into how I interpreted your question. So my first script ever that I was writing was this action fantasy movie, and it got to a point where our hero essentially goes against the organization that he is part of. And so now all of his allies are now his enemies, and they are coming after him. And while I knew that turn of events had to happen, I wrote it in such a way that I was focusing too much on points that weren't necessary to telling the story, and I had written so far into that storyline, I guess, that I was like, what am I doing? I'm now talking about these characters that are going to die in the next like 10 pages who don't even have character names, right? And I'm giving them dialogue, and I'm like coming up with motivation. I'm like, let's just get rid of this. Let me just backtrack out of that and go down a different path where this is what the audience will want to see, and it makes more sense. So I run into those moments as well, and that's what I thought you wanted to discuss. But as far as the question as you restated it, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you pointed out, I don't outline, and so even if I do have a fantastic memory, it's one of those things that I take for granted, and because I have remembered certain things, I think that all of the gaps are filled for a story, and then I'm just like walking along, and then, oh my God, there's a chasm right here, and then I have to stop and there are many ways to bridge the chasm.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to what seems to work best. And lastly, just from our experience with this project, I think, whenever we go over old pages and we see that, after your feedback, it now is presented in a different way, I think that's further evidence of how I work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Although I haven't really read the old stuff again. Soon I might have to see, what's been done to it.
Well, yeah. Well, what I mean is, our conversation about the meteor scene,
right.
That dramatically changed. I was going to say, I can't remember if I actually sent you pages where I had this long extended chase sequence after Long saves his brother, from the camp as they're fleeing the camp. I think I removed it. Yeah, I think that was the week I wrote like 10 pages of this dramatic action-filled sequence of he's throwing dynamite behind him as the overseers are chasing him, and it was awesome. And then I said, screw it, get rid of all of that. But that's another example of, you get to a point and you're just like, it's not working. So Brian, why do you bring this up? First of all, did I answer your question?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit different than what I experienced, because cognitively, I'm not sure in some cases what to do. I got to this point, and I don't want to go into the actual plot itself, but I will tell you that I sat and just looked at my page for a while, and it was not a writing block. It was the mental leap I had to take. I just couldn't quite get there logically in terms of why something's going to happen. I'm very, even if it's in a fantasy world or whatever else, I want it to be as true as possible. And I don't like, that, we can make this work, or it's a little bit of a jump for people. I want it to be solid. I want it to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense to me, then I would never ask you or an audience member to actually believe what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe this.
Yeah.
So I had to go back, and I'm like, I wouldn't believe this at all. And, but I'm like, I know there's something there. So I went and, I remembered when I used to be in creative writing back in college. And one of the things that they would have us do is take the pen to paper, don't look up, don't stop writing. I don't care if you're writing. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. Just keep writing until I tell you to stop. It was 10 minutes of that, just nonstop. And I would do that. I would start writing in those classes, and nothing be coming. I'd be writing, nothing is coming. And next thing you know, I kind of step back from the consciousness, and something interesting usually just came forward. I'm like, wow, that's different. And it just takes me along a path. And so I started doing that and writing something. And though ultimately, quite honestly, I didn't keep what I wrote, it got me to the point where I was actually happy with it. But it was a very big surprise. Like, wow, this story just went in a totally different place I didn't think it was going to go, and I really think it's interesting. I went a little too far. The next day I went back. I'm like, well, it's still a little bit too much, but there's something there. So there's definitely a lot of self-editing going on, but it's a new experience for me, as is all of this. But that was a new kind of experience that I hadn't used that particular skill for a long time as well. So that was a lot of fun.
So
very, very different.
Let me just make sure I understand. You hit this kind of wall, we'll say, and you just forced yourself to write stuff, and then decided, and the next day you decided to like trim it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey man, that's great. I never liked that exercise in school. I always felt like this guy just doesn't want to teach today. All right, I'm just, and I was if I was bored in class, I really just checked out. That's not to say, I was a hotshot and I didn't need to focus or I didn't need to pay attention. I think relative to a lot of my classmates, maybe that might have been the case. But I think I was also fatalistic about things. And, if an assignment, especially in my later years in high school, if an assignment just seemed like inconsequential to me, not in the sense of academia, but just inconsequential in the scope of life, I guess, I would just flip the assignment over, because it was always printouts, right? It was always printouts. Just flip the assignment over, and then I would draw like stickmen or whatever, right? And so I kept a lot of my work from high school, and I have it like shoved away somewhere. And I had the occasion to dig it out today because I was putting some other drawings into this folder. And I was just looking at some of my old drawings from high school, and, I would say, oh yeah, this is funny. And then I would turn it over to see what assignment it was, because it's the handout. And then it's like, oh, creative writing or whatever, right? So yeah, that was a pretty good doodle. I wonder what I was thinking of, or why I was so bored in that class that day. Anyway, so
I just need to add on to that because I've worked with you, and the same thing would happen very much in terms of like a meeting, or if there's something that was assigned and you weren't into it or just thought it was maybe not beneath you, but just like, this is like, you're wasting my time here. Yeah. Boy, it's easy to see when you check out. It's funny because actually, to me, I took it as a challenge. Like, okay, I got to step up my game if that's the case. I'm going to have to challenge the guy.
Yeah, that sucked. I hate that because it's like, it's just like creating more work for myself. You know what I mean?
Can't fake it, man.
That's a skill I need to learn, to be honest. Like, oh God, this is going to take me 2 days, Brian. And then do it in 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Those were the days though, man. It's like, it's, I know we're really off on a tangent now, but I worked as a copywriter under Brian, and it was nice to have a manager who could like roll with my idiosyncrasies, I guess, and like me being fun and like just recognizing like, what this copy is like, who cares, right? It doesn't, no one's going to read this or whatever, right? And so you could enjoy the funny things.
The two people who are going to read it ever are reading it right now.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Hence this show, because this particular show, I think, is going to be for us.
Yeah.
2 weeks, 2 hours, tough luck. Tough luck, people.
There you go.
If you don't like this, fast forward.
Bingo.
Fast forward, or we'll see you in 22.
Hey, that's what the different speed modes are, what they're for on YouTube, right? 2x speed. We'll be chipmunks. Who cares?
They're talking like this.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Brian. Well, is there anything else we need to discuss before we get into the script?
I think we should go to a dramatic reading.
Okay. Unrehearsed.
Unrehearsed on my end as well.
So, do we need to go over the old pages? Do we care?
I think we need to go from the bottom of 101 at least. Right?
Okay. All right.
So probably from, I'll just take it from exterior, bonfire.
Do it.
All right. Is the script up and am I gone?
Yes, you are gone, Brian,
And
but
the
not
pages.
forgotten.
And you are still heard. So there you go. All right, here we go. Exterior bonfire, continuous. The Gatling guns are set in place just as Father Espinosa and his people are in view. Jones jumps into action.
Jones. All right, boys. Fire!
Sorry.
Wow.
Didn't even remember. I don't remember the accents. The soldiers on the Gatling gun. Oh, sorry, my mistake. The soldiers on the Gatling guns hesitate.
Jones. I said fire!
The soldiers aren't sure of what to do. Jebediah rides up.
Jebediah. Jones, why are those guns silent? Jones. Sir, these soldiers are ignoring a direct order. Jebediah. You there. What's your name, son?
One of the soldiers steps forward.
Callahan. Private Callahan, sir. Jebediah. Steel yourself, boy. It's no worse than what we did at the fort. Callahan. Sir, killing soldiers is one thing. I ain't no killer of women or kids. Jebediah. Oh, is that what you see out there? Because I only see poor souls afflicted with a terrible disease, and they are a danger to us all. Now, follow your orders. I will not tell you again.
He nods at Jones before riding off. Jones stares at Callahan. Exterior road number 2, continuous. Father Espinosa jogs towards the bonfires in the distance while holding the hand of a small child. His congregation hurries behind him.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking we could just skip all of this exposition stuff.
Oh.
But I guess not. Okay, fine. Fine, I'll read. Father Espinosa. Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
As they get closer to the bonfires, a loud mechanical clicking emits from the dark. The survivors freeze, trying to discern the noise. Suddenly, the dark lights up in steady muzzle flash as high-caliber bullets tear through the group. Father Espinosa turns and shields the child with his body as he's riddled with projectiles. Other survivors scream and try to run, but there's no escape from the kill zone. Exterior, Wells Green Bank, roof continuous. Long and company watch the carnage, aghast. Exterior, road number 2, continuous. The road falls silent, littered with dead. Father Espinosa's corpse moves, but it's just the child he protected climbing out from beneath him. The child looks around in fear and confusion. From the dark, the metal clicking begins again. Exterior, Wells Green Bank, roof continuous. Patrick turns and retches. Sally turns away. Zeke comforts her. Only Long and Everett have the stomach to keep watching, jaws clenched and faces full of emotion. Long notices something and nudges Everett. He looks. Soldiers run toward the town and hurl torches at buildings. Long and Everett see this happening in every direction.
Everett. They're burning the town. Long. They know what's happening here. They don't want it getting out. Patrick. We're trapped.
Everyone is silent for a few moments.
Sally. The back entrance to the bar. Zeke. Yes. Oh, gosh. Zeke. Zeke's voice. How does it go again? Yeah. Well, whatever. I'll just random gruff voice. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. How many ways can you say yes? Yes. It goes all the way out to the desert. I'm sure the army hasn't spotted it. We can still sneak out. Long. All right. Let's go.
Everyone is about to leave.
Everett to Long. I can't let you go. Long. You can't stop me. Everett. You're my prisoner.
He faces Long in a threatening manner, then rushes him. Long draws his pistol but can't bring himself to fire. Instead, he grapples with Everett. The fight is evenly matched until Long places Everett in a chokehold. Everett thrashes.
Long. What is your obsession with me? Everett. I was on that train you derailed. Long. So what? Let it go. You survived. Everett. My family was on that train.
Long releases Everett immediately. Sally and Zeke are surprised and look at Long with shock and concern.
Everett. My wife and son. You killed them. Do you remember their screams? I do. I do.
Insert flashback. Interior, engine 1409, passenger car number 3, 15 years ago. A clean-shaven Everett, his wife Josephine, 25, and their son Lucas, 6, are sitting together. The steady clack, clack of the rail fills the air. Josephine and Lucas are rummaging through their luggage.
Lucas. He's not here. Josephine. It's all right, Lucas. It's just a little while longer. Everett. What are you looking for? Josephine. Oh, it's just his bear. Everett. Did I say Josephine? I did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Everett. Isn't he getting too old for the... Oh, my God. 2. Look at that, Brian. Isn't he getting too old for that? Lucas. Mr. Bear. I want Mr. Bear. Josephine to Everett. I'm sure I packed it. It's probably in the trunk with my dresses.
Lucas looks up at Everett with hope brimming in his eyes. Everett smirks with fatherly joy.
Everett. All right. I'll get Mr. Bear.
Everett stands and leaves out the rear of the car. Interior, passenger car number 4, continuous. Everett enters the next car, which has less passengers. Interior, luggage car, continuous. Everett opens the door to the car and enters. After he shuts the door, he's stunned to see so many trunks that look alike. Interior, passenger car number 3, continuous.
Lucas. Will Mr. Bear be all right, Mama? Josephine. Mr. Bear will be just...
The train shudders violently, throwing Lucas and her down. Interior, luggage car, continuous. The car lurches, sending high stacked trunks down on Everett. Interior, passenger car number 3, continuous. Josephine checks on Lucas.
Josephine. Are you hurt?
Lucas shakes his head, but he's terrified. People around them are dazed. Muffled screams snap Josephine's eyes to the front of the car. The door flies open as people shove their way in. Josephine glimpses the car ahead. It's angled down severely. She can see all the way through it, and the car ahead of it is missing completely, revealing the gorge below.
Josephine. Lucas, hold on to me. Lucas. Why, Mama? Josephine. Do as you're told, boy.
Lucas climbs into her arms and hugs her for dear life. Josephine turns to run toward the rear of the car. Exterior, engine 1409, continuous. The car ahead of Josephine's slides closer to the edge of the cliff, dragging the rest of the train with it. More screams. Some passengers try climbing out windows, but the first car slides off the end of the cliff. Interior, passenger car number 4, continuous. Josephine and Lucas barely enter the car when passenger car number 3 slides off the cliff. Exterior, engine 1409, continuous. Only the luggage car is left on the tracks, but with all 3 passenger cars sliding toward the cliff edge, the luggage car is yanked hard, falling on its side and ripping up tracks. The passenger cars slide off the cliff. Amazingly, the tangle of rail caught in the wheels of the luggage car provide enough drag to anchor the car and stop the rest of the train from plummeting. For now. Interior, passenger car number 4, continuous. Everyone in the car tries to make their way to the rear, but the car lurches forward hopelessly to the cliff, then over. Orientation of the car turns vertical amid helpless screams. Exterior, engine 1409, continuous. Passenger car number 4 slams against the cliffside. Interior, passenger car number 4, continuous. Passengers are shaken out of their seats and fall forward to the bottom of the now vertical car, nearly crushing Josephine and Lucas. Below them, through the open car door, passengers in lower cars try to climb up. A terrible metal wrenching sound precedes more screams as the connection between passenger car number 3 and number 4 fails, and cars fall to their doom. Interior, exterior, luggage car, continuous. Immobilized under heavy luggage, Everett lies unconscious, halfway out of the car. He rouses to see his predicament, staring straight down at passenger car number 4, hanging by the tenuous connection to the luggage car. He sees Josephine.
Everett. Josephine!
Interior, passenger car number 4, continuous. Josephine sees just enough of Everett.
Josephine. Everett, help! Everett, struggling. I'm stuck. Can you get to me? Josephine. How? Everett. Climb. The seats.
Josephine gets up and begins to climb hesitantly. using the seats as a kind of ladder. Other passengers begin to follow her lead. The car shudders.
Everett.
At last, I'm sorry.
What?
Sorry.
Oh, it's
Sorry.
me, right?
Uh-huh.
Everett. Hurry, darling. You can do it.
At last, Josephine stands on the back of the last seat, but the door at the back of the car is just out of reach. Interior, exterior, luggage car, continuous. Everett struggles underneath the luggage as he stretches to reach out to Josephine. She jumps and their fingertips touch briefly. The connector between the luggage car and passenger car number 4 begin to whine and protest.
Josephine. It's falling. It's falling.
The passengers below her panic, and they begin pulling on each other to climb higher. Some fall.
Everett. Darling, you have to try. Please.
She jumps again, but it's impossible.
Josephine. Take Lucas. Take him.
She kisses Lucas before lifting him up to Everett. Before she can hand him off, the connection between the cars begins to separate before catching again. But the distance to Everett has been extended. Now Lucas is just out of reach. Making a superhuman effort, Everett manages to wriggle a few more inches out of the luggage. He reaches out for Lucas, but the connection between the cars finally snaps. Everett grasps hopelessly for his family as the car falls. Josephine's and Lucas's face twist into panic screams as they fall, surrounded by desperate people clutching at them. The image burns itself into Everett's eyes. End flashback. Exterior, Wells Green Bank, roof, continuous.
Long. Everett. I'm sorry for Everett. No! You don't get to apologize. Not for that. Long. Fine. We can't settle this Oh, let's try that again. Fine. We can settle this later. For now, we need to leave. I'm willing to take you with us.
Zeke is about to object when Long raises his hand. Everett considers the offer, but finally resigns himself to reality.
Everett. I'm staying. Long. Why? That's certain death. Live to chase me another day.
A woman screams in the distance. Everyone notices.
Everett. I have people here who are counting on me. I won't abandon them.
Exterior, Wells Green Bank, minutes later. Just outside the entrance, Long's group is ready to leave.
Everett. If I survive this, I will come for you. I swear to God. Long. I believe you. To Zeke and Sally. You two. Meet me at the bar. I'm going with the Marshal. Sally. You can't be serious. Long. We have people to save. Zeke. We have ourselves to save. Long. Oh?
He gives a pointed look at Patrick. Zeke nods in agreement, and he leaves with Sally and Patrick.
Everett. Why are you doing this?
Long unlocks Everett's manacles.
Long. You inspired me with your light in the darkness speech.
The two men stare at each other in silence for a few moments, before Everett laughs quietly in frustration and relief. Long smiles genuinely in return.
And there we are, Brian.
End scene.
All right, lay it on me. First of all, give me your overall impression.
My overall impression is that I think the people who are watching this in the future probably need to make sure that they're following us and interacting with us on social media.
Okay, Brian. Okay, all right, you're right. Brian is right, everybody. In order to follow us and interact with us and keep up with all of the pages I turn in every week, which is typically every Thursday evening, you go to our website, which is letswritethismovie.com. I have it up on the screen for those of you who are watching. Oh, what is happening here? Let me just try to fix what's going on. What is going on? Did I make this? How embarrassing. I'm trying to... There you go. I think it's the right size now, everybody. It's the right size. Okay. Anyway, this is our site. This is where you can find pages. They're broken up into different episodes. And if you click one of them, like the latest one, episode 21, You can read the most recent pages, and they're in this PDF viewer. Just click through them. You can leave your feedback below in the form, or if you are just a YouTube viewer, you are welcome to leave comments on this episode or previous episodes on the channel itself. You can also find us on Twitter, and let me just fix the size of Twitter now. I don't know why I'm running into so many technical difficulties. These were all set perfectly before, and yet there we are, resized and perfect again. The handle is at WriteThisMovie, and I will engage with you if you leave comments, and whenever I mess up, I will leave mea culpas in long, winding, multi-post tweets. And that's it.
That's my problem, you see. I go to the website. I did not go to Twitter this last time.
Oh.
That's why I missed out.
Well, I did text you, Brian.
You did. I felt terrible when I saw that, but,
Well, you know.
What are you going to do?
For all I know, we don't have your audio in this episode, and that's going to be a little surprise for me.
To me, this will be the episode I like listening to.
Yeah, exactly. It's all just character voices.
I have no problem redubbing my part, by the way.
Okay, Brian, so what is your overall opinion?
So I've been giving this quite a bit of thought since you sent me these pages, because I was thinking about the last two shows, and I guess that's close to maybe close to 15 pages or so. And what you were describing those pages, I didn't have a lot to say about them, because I felt like you were just describing a lot of really cool, fun things. And it was like, yeah, I mean, this is great. I'd love to watch this. This is a lot of fun. But when I got to these pages, I felt like the challenge was so much greater. Like, we're not talking about action here. We're talking about almost like the heart of the movie. These are some big scenes that you've got going on here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I had to make myself some notes. So I'm thinking they're critical because you've in 10 pages, actually even less than that, really, maybe about 8 pages, you've got a tall order. These are the things you have to communicate and get the audience to buy into.
Yeah.
We need to trigger Everett's flashback with something believable. There's got to be a reason that happens, right? That he's finally going to break and tell Long, this thing that's been troubling him for so long. Number 2, you have to tell a compelling flashback. Obviously, there has to be something there that, this is one of those big scenes I know that's been in your head for a while, or at least, like you said, the ending of it. I could see that. Number 3, we have to justify taking Everett further, right? Because now we know that this is a real personal endeavor, and why would Long accept that? What's changing in his character? I mean, these are huge things that are changing now, whereas before I think we had action and more. Even if it's character building, it's building on things that we already knew. It's not really a lot of surprises. It's more like, cool things this one does, or cool things that happen, fun things. And finally, we need to get to a point where Everett and Long have some sort of bond, be it tenuous, be it whatever. There's something there at the end that has not existed between the two of them. That's a lot to do, man, in like 8 to 10 pages.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, the first time I read through this, it was like, there's so much going on here. I was a little overwhelmed. So I had to give it a couple reads before, it really kind of was able to put my my overall thought to it. But first off, this is a huge endeavor, man. These were not just like writing 10 pages. This is like, I would guess reading this is probably the hardest of the 10, just because it's got so much in it. So it's dense, and it's not just dense, but it's dense and important, within the context of the movie. This to me is it. Like, it's not the duel, which I think is gonna be another like really great moment where they face off, and you don't want to see it. And there are these conflicting emotions as the audience member, as you start to like both characters. Something's going to happen. Something fatalistic or almost fatalistic is going to happen that's going to change their worlds. But before that, this to me up till now is like, this is the emotional heart of it. So I will tell you, overall, I think there are some really great things in here. I also think there's some places that need a little bit of work. So, I can go through those for you. But I think a lot of the beats are really good. I just think I think the only issues I really had was, I mean, there's some minor things, but the issues that I had that were larger are more in the transitional parts of it. Almost like I know you're going from here to here and it happens so quick that I feel like, and I may have said this in the past, so I apologize if I have, because I almost think I'm positive I have, but if you're going to spend a little extra time, this is probably the place I would do it. Where, maybe before, where you're kind of doing more setup and stuff like that, that's important. But this to me is like mission critical to get this part right.
Yeah.
Because you're changing a relationship, and that's huge. So there's a revelation, there's an emotional, huge emotional piece to this. As an audience member, we just came off of a kid dying. Now we're going to watch a kid dying. You know what I mean? That's tough, right? That's tough to stomach, even in a zombie movie. You know what I mean? Because those are not zombie kills that we're talking about. We're talking about real people within here. So this is like a lot of, emotional gut punch going on. So anyway, the transitions is where I felt like.
Yeah. Well, let me just jump in here. I too think the transitions need work. I think they are, as read on the page, I think they are a little weak. Now, I foresee that even if I didn't do a second pass on this, as directed and as filmed, I think it would be okay. But I think that's kind of like lazy writing to just assume, it doesn't read that way. I don't feel it as I read it, but hey, a director is going to fix it. So they fight or whatever. I don't need to describe anything. Very quickly, as a 5-second story, I was reading the Born Identity script. This was a long time ago when I could still find scripts online for free. There's a big action sequence, and I don't know what version of the script this was, but the script says something really cool happens here.
No.
Yeah. And then it moves on. It just goes into the next thing. I'm like, something really, you can get away with that? I didn't know that. So, but I guess,
that was the original one?
What's that?
That was the original?
Yeah, the very first Bourne movie.
So much better than the others.
Yeah, I think so too. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, that's right. So, yes. So let's talk about the transition. So the first transition, and I know you have your notes, and I don't want to step on them. But just to kind of talk about the process I was faced with. So we transitioned from stating the new problem, which is essentially setting up the third act, right? The town is going to be encircled in flames, and the flames are going to creep inward, forcing everybody, like both the threat, which are the zombies and the infected, and the survivors, closer together into, a confrontation where they can no longer hide from each other, essentially, right? And our survivors need to escape. So now that we have laid out, the path to success or failure, how do we get back into the relationship between Long and Everett, right? And you and I had discussed, I don't know which episode, but a while ago, that, Everett would, he would be invited to leave with them, and Everett would say, oh, no, I can't. There are people here who are counting on me, and, I owe it to them, or something like that, right? And then Long would say, I will help you because of your story of me killing your family, right? And that was where we left it. That's all we talked about. And I was like, oh, okay. But then, because I remembered that, I was like, that doesn't work here, right? Like, something has to incite this conversation, right? They're not buddy enough at this point where Long can just be like, okay. And Everett would feel fine telling him the thing that, describing his trauma to him, right?
Right.
So I think the only, I thought the best solution was to have a fight. A physical altercation would draw out the emotional altercation. Now, I think that's fine, but the reasoning for the fight, I think, is where it's weak. Because when Long says, all right, let's go, I think an audience would think, let's go everybody, not let's go and leave the marshal here on in the town to die, right? No one's going to think that. And so when Everett says, I can't let you go, right? It's kind of like, is that really what he would say right then? Like, wouldn't he assume that he was part of this group now? I don't know. And so I think that's a gray area for me. And so there you go. So that's where I think it's weak, that connection at that point of, hey, let's go.
Right.
So let's talk about this transition, because I know it's going to be one of your notes. So go ahead.
So I had a question on I Can't Let You Go Either, and the implication of it, that, they were leaving without him, because I figured everyone was going together unless he's like, didn't want to go with them, in which case it would be very simple, I'm not going with you, or I can't go with you. You know what I mean? Rather than I can't let you go. Because he wants to stay and do this other thing, but that wouldn't really lead into where you want to go. So I did stumble on it. I didn't have a note other than a question mark. Like, I'm not sure what to do with that.
Yeah.
But then when it says, you're my prisoner, I'm like, well, he's shackled though. Yeah, you're my prisoner, I guess, in the sense if the roles were reversed. But I mean, if he said, because he's just kind of married to the law, and just said, you're still my prisoner, I guess it's a little bit more of a distinction, I don't care who's wearing shackles right now, you're still my prisoner. But that, again, doesn't really lead into the fight. So I did have problems with the fight. I had problems with what you wrote in there, first off, in that it says the fight is evenly matched. I'm like, how can the fight possibly be evenly matched if he's wearing manacles? I get, that you have still have your hands free, but it definitely, it definitely precludes a lot of movement from it, especially if they do like what, like if a costume designer decides to do that old thing where, they put the thing around the waist and the arms, and then they bind those together, what I mean? So the arms can go, but they can't go very far. That's I look back, that's like pretty typical of this time. It's not just the hands. Sometimes.
That's not what I'm imagining.
Yeah. Even if it's just the hands, I'm like, there's no way he's gonna be able to take long. You know what I mean? He's just rushing him, unless it's just, I was like, well, maybe it's just based out of pure emotion, like he's just fed up with this guy. But it wasn't really leading. I'm sorry, I know I keep talking, but it wasn't really leading me there. I was kind of filling in blanks in my head and questioning and trying to figure it out. And then I went to a point where I was like, well, if I was Everett actually trying to get out of this situation, I probably would attack the weakest of the group that's armed, like maybe Sally or something, because she's a female. You know what I mean? Try and take her out and get the gun. So I'm like, none of this is really working for me. The whole pretense of it, I couldn't get past it.
Okay. Well, I don't have an answer that would make it okay for you, but to address the evenly matched comment first, I had always imagined that Everett was physically more intimidating or physically stronger than Long. That Long was not like a physical guy necessarily.
Okay, so it evened it out somewhat from the vantage point, because he's a smaller guy. Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like there's something there. I'm not sure what it is.
All right, well, let's work backwards. Should they get into a fight? Or, no, let's work backwards from the flashback. What should precipitate the flashback?
I do want to address the fight for a second too, because it causes another problem with me, which is later in the script, which is from the time that they get to the fight to the flashback to the beginning of the buddy cop. On screen, that's just a few minutes. That's like 3 or 4 minutes probably. It's going to happen very quickly. And I'm like, this is a guy who was just bum rushing him, and now he's sitting there laughing for whatever reason. If maybe it's an emotional break, maybe it's something. Like, wow, that is a lot to have happen emotionally to a character in a very short amount of time. To where the fight was, again, not working for me. Because I know kind of where you're going with the ending, with him having that shared kind of, reaction. I thought that was interesting. But I just felt like coming so quickly after a fight, I just couldn't get to it. I just couldn't get there. I know that, like, you think of like guys fighting or, friends fighting, maybe even guys, and, 10 minutes later, they're hugging it out and doing whatever, and they're best of buddies again. I know that happens, but these guys don't have that to fall back on. They're forming new relationships. So to your question of should the fight happen, it's like another reason not for me. But now if you would restate your question again, you want to go back from what starts the flashback?
Well, yes, but so I just want to I want to make sure I'm arguing against your argument rather than you as a person. Mm-hmm. But so I hope this doesn't come off as anything personal.
You suck, Brian.
No, that's not it. I live with the script. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm always like thinking about it, and like the things that have the events in the script are still in my mind as I read these pages and as I envision these scenes. So we have to remember that this fight and the reactions to it and the emotions coming off of it are in relation to Long having saved all of their lives already in the room, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of giving his backstory, to Everett after that. So Everett has a little more context to why Long is the way he is. Yeah. And we can say that, that long, hard look that Everett gives him after his story time, as Stan calls it, is kind of like this, we can read into that as Everett not wanting to excuse anything about Long, even though if he were uninvolved in the story, he might say, okay, I understand why he is the way he is, and, I can kind of like forgive it to a degree, if that makes sense. All right, so we have that. And then, we have Everett's experience that Long sticks up for Everett when the roles are reversed. So there's already this kind of like, we've had two big moments between these two guys where, they could have gotten rid of each other, like got rid of this problem that they both have, which is each other, easily. Like they both had that opportunity, but didn't take it.
Right.
I want the fight to be, I don't know, to have more emotional, and maybe I didn't write it this way, but to have that emotional context of, or maybe like an underlying theme of, Everett not wanting Long to go, not because of the law necessarily, but because Long in a very big way defines Everett. Mm-hmm. And so there's this kind of, the obsession of having chased someone so long, you don't want the chase to end anymore because that has been your life. If that makes sense. I mean, I'm trying to put in subtext now, and it feels really facile doing it outside of the script, but basically that's my intention. Knowing that, does that make this any better? Like, does that help shape, your view of it? And, like realities aside, like, oh, I don't think a guy in manacles would be able to fight or whatever. Does the idea, the goal of these scenes, does that make more sense?
Well, first off, I'm not sure how I would have taken that personally, but maybe it's because you don't think that I'm remembering kind of what's happened before, and I'm taking that into account. but I am, because I'm invested in the characters a lot, you know what I mean? So I kind of get that, and I'm very I try to, if I don't remember something exactly, I do go back and actually reread something from previous pages of our script.
Okay.
Because I do want to make sure that, you know, these pages don't live on their own, you know, because that's not how a movie works.
Yeah.
So I was definitely thinking all that, and I don't think that the subtext you're trying to relay is coming through at all, in terms of why he did what he did. And I'm still not convinced that a fight is the reason for it. I do feel that there's almost something like, here's where my head went. Okay, let me just kind of pitch you a slight alternative to this without much detail. I felt like the point where, you know, Long says, all right, let's go, Everett does something just bullish, you know, that is like, you know, I'm not doing anything with, or I'm not exactly sure what that is, but something where it's very clear, even though Everett has been saying since the beginning, that's the law, everything's about the law, blah, 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 blah. If we don't have the law, we have nothing. It's very clear that there's something more to it. This is not because of the law. The law is an excuse for him to do something that is extremely personal to him, that he's emotionally attached to. But it's to the point where they're not aligned correctly. You know what I mean? And Long, who seems to be a fairly perceptive guy, picks up on it, you know, and says something like, you know, what is it with you? Do you treat all your prisoners like that or like this? You know, I don't understand. I don't understand what your deal is, you know? You're not, whatever, you know, whatever other things that take place at this point. But to me, that provides a little bit more of an emotional way to get into the flashback, you know, like, you're not like other prisoners to me, you know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, what's your obsession with me, which that's kind of where that was coming from. That's that same place. It's almost like, it's not really an obsession. I mean, if someone was to like just pummel me, I wouldn't take that as an obsession. I take that as, you know, like, why do you have such a target on my back? You know, there are lots of criminals out there who do far worse than I do. What is it with me? You know, and that's where I kind of felt you were going with the obsession. I felt like there's something there to help kind of lead that. You know, and I don't know if it's like, you know, Everett says something like, you know, you don't know, do you still haven't figured it out. You know, I was on that train. And Long would be like, you know, kind of going into what you've done here. Okay. You know what I mean? And I'm not exactly sure how to tie that all together necessarily, but I feel like that core could happen without, it's almost like at this point, you know, you've got people who want to bail, right? Get the hell out of there. Long even wants to bail, and Everett is steadfast. You know, and that is enough of a thing to just say, why are you doing, you're choosing death over going with us now, right? Because you're going to stay here and die. I love that line of, is that later? Must be later. You know, come with us and you have another chance, another day.
Yeah, chase me and live to chase me another day.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You know, but again, that to me is still in response to the fact that he is not only not going to go, but he's also going to go and basically he's willing to sacrifice his life to try and help others. So I don't know if I've answered your question or kind of I feel like I've talked around it.
Well, so here's my issue, and I think this gets to the heart of the problem. Would Everett tell this story if it were not under, we'll say, extreme circumstances, right? Everett is the way I perceive him, the way I'm trying to write him, is he's a very closed off guy, and not very emotional, very terse, you know, a tight-lipped man of action, if you will. And so I don't think he would be the kind of guy to do essentially what you described and what we kind of agreed on in a previous episode, where he would just confide in Long, hey, you killed my family, kind of thing, right? Obviously not flippant like that, but just to reveal that, which is why it seems natural to me that it comes at during a fight where Everett knows, he realizes, I'm going to lose this fight, and who knows what's going to happen to me once I fall unconscious. Right. So
you're right. Absolutely. A fight will definitely bring out those emotions. So if you really want to do the fight, then I think that it should be a fight. Maybe it's a precursor to the duel, but it's something more like, maybe there's something before then where they're kind of arguing, like, what is your deal with me? I don't understand. You seem to be taking this awfully personal. Me robbing people on a train, you seem to be taking it awfully personally, Marshal. You know what I mean? And it just kind of gets in his craw. He's like, you don't have any idea how personal it is. Not that he's saying this. I'm just thinking subtextual.
Yeah.
To the point where he kind of triggers them, and they kind of go off on each other. And then Everett just jumps at him, and it's like, what is the deal? Once Long gets him to the point where he's immobilized, what is your deal with me? Or what is your obsession? However you want to phrase it. It seems like it would at least lead into that a little bit more and give you the fight. But I think there needs to be something that leads up to that
All right.
point.
Let's do this. Instead of Everett is about to leave, Everett says, I can't let you go. Maybe there's still something similar to this dialogue, and we can move up the what is your obsession with me before the fight. And maybe Everett can give a standard patter about the law, and Long can say, I don't know the dialogue, so there's no connective tissue here yet, but Long can basically say something like, Long could say, did I kill someone you know, or something like that. But Long he's killed his deputies, so that doesn't quite make sense. But basically what I'm getting at is that Long needs to say something that's flippant, that Everett takes as a reference to Everett's family.
Right.
I don't know what that dialogue is yet, though.
Oh, you're the writer.
Great.
That's the inciting, something to incite him, just to put him over the edge.
Yeah.
And be so personal because it refers to, his loss. I think that would be great. And I think you're right. I think definitely a fight, if warranted, does exactly what you're asking for emotionally. It just they do. It breaks a person down a little bit, and puts them in more vulnerable places. So I think it's a good prelude to this. I just didn't feel like it was necessarily, I didn't really believe it happening the way it did.
No, and that's the thing. I think I am good with the sequence of events, except for the incitement with a C. Well, that doesn't make any sense. There's no incitement with an S. I was trying to do a little callback there, Brian, but was unsuccessful. Anyway,
unsuccessful with the C and S.
Yeah. The thing that starts it off is the weak part, and I don't know. I think I was too conveniently happy with the whole "I can't let you go and you can't stop me" exchange. So I was like, "Yeah, that's good enough." When I think I should have focused on that part a little more.
Yeah, I got to the "I can't let you go," and what was that? I think I went to like Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
When I heard that, you know what I mean?
I don't know how to quit you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, oh boy. All right. So yeah, we've covered the big issue with this piece. There is another piece later I want to talk about as well. But I think that I know we haven't solved it necessarily, but I feel like you can get there now.
I think we've diagnosed the problem, and I know what to solve. So okay. That is the biggest issue, to be honest, or the biggest hurdle.
Right. So one thing I'm going to suggest here, as far as dialogue, and of course you adjusted or whatnot, but this thing where it says, "My wife and son, you killed them. Do you remember their screams?" I do. A
little too movie-esque for you?
No. Well, I don't like I do's. I don't like repetition.
But no, look, it's emphasized, bro. It's emphasized.
I see it on TV all the time, and every time I do, I hear it.
All right, this is look.
I roll my eye.
Okay.
Hold on. Can I get to the actual point I was trying to make?
All right.
Here's what I changed it to. My wife. I'm going to do the acting too. My wife and son. You killed them. You took everything from me that day. Everything but their screams. Do you remember their screams? I do. You know what I mean? So it's even adding more emphasis to what happened. And I like the idea of, you took everything from me that day as being just like so powerful. You know what I mean? I know it's my wife and son. Obviously that is everything for him, but I was just trying to like emphasize it even more and even draw it out a little bit more because it happens. It all happens very quickly. And I kind of want to live in that moment, let it breathe a little bit. So, we basically get my family was on that train and people look around and he says this piece and then we're in the flashback for a while. We're not going to see his emotion again. So I just wanted to live on his, I can just see the movie version of this. Like we're living right, in his face at this time. And he's kind of reliving it, as he's delivering these lines. So just a request to add a little bit more there.
Put in a beat, bro. I could put in a beat, I hear what you're saying.
Before that, where were you going to go before that? Where were you going to go before that?
What?
You were going to say something with "I do."
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a direct lift, but I'll say an homage to The Sixth Sense, because in the opening scene of that, Donnie Wahlberg is in the bathroom of Malcolm Crane or whatever his name is, Malcolm something, or maybe his last name is Malcolm.
I don't remember.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Anyway, Donnie Wahlberg's character, he's like, he's talking about his problems, and he's like, "Do you remember, whatever?" And he's like, I do, right? And I was like, that just played in my head as I was writing this, So, in fact, to be honest, Brian, the original version of this, before I sent it to you, before I kind of like cleaned it up on Thursday, there is I draw it out. It was, do you remember their screams? I do. And then Everett locks eyes with Long. Mm-hmm. And then he says, I do. And then we go into the flashback. And then I was thinking, because there is that suggested instruction, because we were focusing on those eyes for the cinematographer, right? Mm. That when we get to the end of the flashback and we're focusing on Everett's eyes, because the image burns into his eyes, right? Mm. We can do a match cut to Everett on the roof again, staring at Long. Right. So, there's a little bit of method to the madness here.
I get it.
I'm going. So basically, I feel you. Of course, this is a very important piece of dialogue.
Yeah.
I want to leave something to the director. Like, hey, you know what? Hopefully he'll see this and understand this needs to be drawn out a little bit. Why don't you sit on these lines?
As with everything, I write down recommendations and suggestions.
Hey, totally, Brian. Totally.
Okay, so I know this is gonna be a long show. We have a lot to talk about still on this.
Oh, good, great. We're an hour and 13 in.
But I'm gonna derail this for a second again.
Okay.
Because 2 weeks ago we talked about Glass, right?
We talked about Glass, yes.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you still haven't seen it.
I have not seen it.
I'm sure I've talked to you about seeing it. Maybe until it comes out on.
You like it now, don't you?
Here's the problem. Here's one of the problems that I really had with it that I wasn't able to articulate at the time.
Okay.
There is a huge scene within it. I'm not really giving anything away because you see it in the trailer, but a huge sequence within it has to do with the fight between Bruce Willis's character and what's his name?
Samuel L. Jackson.
No, he's got all the hair. No, the Beast.
Yeah, the Beast.
McAvoy.
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy's character, right? And you can even see like James McAvoy is kind of like doing that gallop, and you can see it in the trailer. He's galloping at him and stuff like that, right? And then there's the scene between them where they fight, and he's getting thrown against. They're throwing each other against like a van and stuff like that.
I had no idea this was in the movie, by the way. I've only seen one trailer.
I don't care if I spoil it for you.
Okay.
You're such an analytical guy. You're going to spoil it for yourself as you watch it. Plus, it was not that good.
All right.
It just wasn't, dude. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Anyway, here's part of the problem that I was realizing. There's something I really like about Shyamalan's direction in quiet scenes. I think he's very much like Tarantino. Well, they have the discipline to just let the camera sit there and let the good actor act. And I really like that. I feel like it creates an interesting thing you don't see very often. Now we see all these flashes constantly. You know what I mean? But then when it comes to a fight scene, it's terrible. It's terrible because that doesn't really work in this situation. And I won't spoil it for you as to why, because there's a very specific reason as to why it doesn't work.
Okay.
But it was very important that they got this kinetic energy captured on film to really showcase what's happening in this fight. And the reason when this is really brought to life is right around the same time I saw that movie, there's a preview that came out, and I guarantee you saw it. It was for John Wick 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So there is a part in that where John Wick is like running into a room, Halle Berry is running into a room, and two dogs are running in, and all this stuff is happening at once, and these people are coming together in this really cool looking fight scene. You're just like, oh man, I want to see this film. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And there's a similar type of thing they're trying to do in Glass that they fail spectacularly at.
Okay.
It's like it's a blocking and an action issue. The choices that they make, that he and the cinematographer make, are just not comparable to what they're trying to convey.
Okay. And
that's why it was such a disappointment that if they had those scenes, believe it or not, directed by like these guys who were former stuntmen and really get that, how to portray true kinetic energy and not cut away, and get all those things that he's trying to capture, but get them honestly, man, it probably would have been a lot better movie, because that is really where the movie falls down, is in those scenes, which is so weird, right? Because usually it's not the action scenes that people remember, but they were so intrinsic to the plot that it was a true failure there, that and a real opportunity in more capable directing and cinematographer hands, that it's just a shame.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you eventually see this damn movie.
Okay. I was hoping this was going to tie back into the script.
No,
I thought that was going to be. So keep that in mind as you write action sequences.
You mentioned Shyamalan because you did, and it triggered this memory. I was like, I want to talk to René about this.
I see. Okay.
I totally forgot I wanted to talk to you about that because I had other things in my mind. But.
Well, then that's fine, Brian. Since you talked about action, I will derail us even one more layer, one more level down into the many circles of hell, tangent hell. So over the weekend, or rather maybe Friday night, I watched this Indonesian movie called The Night Comes for Us. It stars one of my now new favorite action guys. His name is Iko Uwais. I hope I'm saying his name right. Anyway, he was in this movie called The Raid Redemption. These movies are on Netflix if you have occasion to watch them. Anyway, so both The Raid and this other movie, it's got this kind of new brand of action sequences, of fight scenes, basically, and they're just spectacles to watch. And The Night Comes for Us is like, it's so thin on plot that, it's all voiced in Indonesian, right? So, and there are no English dubbing. There's no English dubbing for it. Not that I ever watch movies with English dubbing, but the point I'm making is that it won't bother you if you watch it with in its spoken language, because there's so little necessary dialogue that you're not going to care. You're not even good. It's like they'll talk for a couple of minutes. What's your name? Oh, I'm Joe. Okay, let's fight. And then it's 10 minutes of fighting. And then some other dudes will run in with guns, and it's just like sequence after sequence of fighting. It's like, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
I recommend you watch it if you just want to see like really good choreographed action sequences that are like super violent, like
Right.
stuff you're not going to get here in the States. I think the choreography in The Night Comes for Us is not quite as good as The Raid. Like The Raid, I think, and The Raid 2, I think their fight scenes are a little more artistic. And one thing that bugs me, we're like way off here, but one thing that bugs me in in many against one fight sequences is when there are people in the background who are just like trying to look busy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm coming soon. I'm coming. Oh, my turn.
Yeah. And so, that's one thing that Jackie Chan's team does really well is that the people in the background are actually like, there's a reason why like they're stunned or whatever. Like he wraps them up in like wire and so they can't get out of it, whereas here you can tell like, okay, I see a guy in the background. Why isn't he attacking? He's just there. Right. And so there are things like that happen in this movie I'm talking about that bother me. But, that guy dies in some spectacular fashion, like a meat hook to the balls and his balls get ripped off or whatever, that you're just like, all right, that's fine. You can wait for that. Stand in line, Anyway.
Speaking of balls on a meat hook,
So I went to this restaurant the other day.
I was going to get back to the script.
No, I know.
The direct corollary.
Okay.
Balls on a meat hook. That one part where Lieutenant Balls.
Right. You know him.
Okay.
All right.
How would you like me to tackle this? Since we tackled one of the big ones, but I do have a couple things before that.
Well, however you feel like it, Brian.
Okay. So I like the change that you made in the beginning with Jones and Jebediah and things like that. I always, as when I'm watching a movie, if I'm looking at it and I start going like, huh, it drives me nuts. You know what I mean? Like I know what they're doing, but logically, if it doesn't make sense, it kind of bugs me. I had the same issue when we have some men dragging Gatling guns, right? And so there are some of those, I'm assuming the rest of them have sidearms or rifles or something like that. And everyone decides at once that they're not going to fire, right? Maybe one guy is not going to fire, so no one's going to fire. And it all happens kind of like with us not really watching it. These decisions are made, with kind of in between the lines. And I kind of bumped on it. So I thought, if you can see that argument, that there is a way to very quickly kind of address it and still pretty much maintain everything you were saying here. And because like the points that he makes, I think is great. I love everything here, but more like, since we are doing, a movie medium, we can play with that. And, it's not like we have to explain everything. So Jebediah being the seasoned, what is he, a captain?
Yes.
Yeah, being the seasoned captain that he is, he can see, the trembling or the trepidation in his men's eyes, and then kind of pick one out, and say, what is it with you? Before they even pull the triggers, they could see him and he could see the look before he gives the order to fire. And that whole thing about, well, this guy here is not firing. Shoot him. I bet the rest of them are going to fire. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't buy that they would be insubordinate to two levels up, right? Jones and Jebediah. I couldn't buy that they all of them wouldn't do it. I guess just those two things. But I bought everything as far as what Jones is saying. These are people. These aren't, they're women and children here. Blah blah blah. All that makes sense. But I think we could bypass the whole don't fire yet and just have that conversation happen right before, which is you can still see the guy, kind of like looking like they're looking at maybe the men are looking at each other like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And you can still say, steal yourself, boy, or steal yourself, men, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, because they're seeing what's happening here. He hasn't given the order. They're not all insubordinate because he needs them to do their job. And a well-trained military person would do their job, even if it's tough, or at least someone in the unit would. You know what I mean? So I think it's completely salvageable. I just think it needs a little bit of a tweak.
Yeah, okay. And I can save some lines.
Yeah, your favorite.
My favorite, yeah. I can just say, hey, some of the soldiers look hesitant to fire
Yeah.
on the approaching women and children. And,
Boom.
just go right to Jebediah's line. He's like riding behind them on his horse.
Right.
And maybe he doesn't even have to speak to one soldier in particular. He can just say, steel yourself, man.
Yeah. It all makes sense. It all still plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little thing, but I thought it was significant. I hate stumbling on things like that. So
No, that's fine.
It's easily solvable. Okay, so let's go to... All right. Lucas?
You don't like Lucas?
I don't like that Lucas is fixated on this bear. It's a minor point, but it's like... It's minor, but it's one of those that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So, like, that he's basically, the bear's not here, he's looking for his bear. That's all cool and everything like that. But, like, in the top of 105, where it says, Mr. Bear, I want Mr. Bear, and this kid is like 6, I thought that maybe it would be like a 3-year-old thing to say. Otherwise, it would be, please, Dad. It's still the same thing he wants, but I don't think a kid would say that.
I could make him 3. I mean, who cares? 3 works better for me, actually.
3 works better, actually, as well, because of other things that happen later with Mom.
Because 6 is too much for her to carry?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, look, the age to me, I just was thinking small kid, but I mean, I understand you have a different perspective because,
I know.
So 3 is fine. I mean, that fixes everything.
Okay.
Size-wise, all of that.
Perfect. I have other lines that I'm not going to even mention then about that. So, again, I'm going to skip.
Okay, well then I'll have to change. Like, isn't he getting too old for that? 3.
Oh, right.
3's too old.
Maybe
Give him a gun.
What's life expectancy? It's a lot less.
It's probably 13. 13 was the life expectancy back then.
All right. So anyway, I'm skipping by the little things on that you just look at the notes. So on 106, well, I guess 106 would change as well. The top, Lucas, hold on to me. Why, Mama, do as you're told, boy.
Yeah.
I scratched it all out, and I wrote Josephine grabs Lucas because I don't care how old this kid is. She's grabbed him. She's not talking to him at all, and he's going to be grabbing on because he's scared of his wits.
Well,
I didn't see any dialogue. Plus, I figured I'm saving the grip of lines.
yeah, no, I hear you. So this comes down to okay. My influence here is Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, and the sequence where she is trying to, she saved Newt from being impregnated. She's gone through the Queen's chamber. She's trying to escape now, and the elevator won't come. It's taken too long, and so she looks up at this like freaking 50-story ladder, and she has to climb this with Newt in her arms.
Yeah.
Within the time that's left before the place blows up, right? And so she yells at Newt, hold on to me, because they're gonna go climb, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to add a little bit of that dynamism to this. I don't. Maybe Lucas doesn't have to say why, Mama. He can just be like frightened into it, like, oh, that makes sense. I'm 3. I'm used to this,
Yeah.
now that he's going to be 3. But once again, I just wanted there to be a little bit more like, more dynamics here. Plus, there's a lot of just action, just exposition here where no one's talking, and I wanted to break it up a little bit for the reader.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
But look, I can get rid of why, Mama. I can just keep it to Lucas, hold on to me! Exclamation point.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it could be like, Lucas, hold on to me. Do not let go, or you do not let go of me. Something like that, where
Yeah.
it's still an order. No, I think that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
it's a minor point.
Well, I think these are things, here's the thing. At the end of the day, we're talking about screenwriting here, right? And I think even the minor points are important to discuss,
Okay.
like the reasoning behind it, because a script is made up of minor points. Oh, yeah. Waxing philosophical, Brian.
That's not going to appear on the one. Script is made up of minor points and consonants, vowels.
Nice.
All right. So the flashback. I got completely lost on the train.
I figured, it's
Let me explain kind of the thing that I didn't get until later.
yeah.
Is that something sliding off the edge of a cliff as you write? Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's falling to the ravine. It's sliding off the edge. It's very easy as a reader to see that as being one and the same, right? And I'm like, wait a second, this one fell off the cliff already. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't know that it was still attached at that point. I didn't really get it until like way later in the scene. I'm like, oh crap, these are all still attached. This whole time I've been so confused because these trains are going over the cliff.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, aren't they attached? How did this happen? Does one break free? You're going to see a lot of notes like that I left in because I was so confused as I read this. That is the first thing. And then the second thing, I think there's a little bit of another geographical or whatever, however you want to,
Orientation.
An orientation type of issue with, I guess we have locomotive, passenger car, 1, 2, 3, 4, and baggage car. That's my guess is what this train is comprised of based on what I have put together here. But in some cases, you've got 3 passenger cars sliding toward the cliff edge. I like I said, I got so confused in it, and I was like, the part that I really wanted to see leading up to this, I felt like it just needed to breathe and have a little bit more there. And this part, I was like, this felt like a shooting script. Like, we need a shot of this, and then we need to cut to this and cut to this. And it's like, these are all the angles, but what's actually happening?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I felt like you were describing the angles that you wanted them to take rather than just describing the action, which I think would help. I think what you were trying to do is orient the reader, and it kind of disoriented me.
I get it. So a couple of responses here. So, let's talk about orientation and why there are so many scene changes here and where we're looking. We have first of all a script, and I hope this doesn't sound condescending or whatever. This is just the way I can describe what
it already does.
Okay, well I figured. I mean, what else can I?
It already does.
What else can I do?
Repeat it.
I do. So, the script is a blueprint, right? And unfortunately, I would love to just write all of this in, one, without having to go like, oh, now we're outside, now we're inside, interior, exterior, right? But how can, not, when we're focusing on the interior and we're looking at what are the people doing, they don't necessarily have the perspective of the entire train, right? So I can't say that from the interior in passenger car number 4, let's say, that they know what's happening in passenger car number 2. And for me to write, hey, interior passenger car number 4, passenger car number 2 falls off the cliff and slams against the cliffside, right? Not to say that happened. I'm just giving you an example. Because if I was reading the script, I would think that the people in passenger car number 4 are witnessing this somehow. They're seeing it out a window. They're seeing it, through the open doorway or something, which is why I have to pull out and say exterior, engine 1409. We have this kind of wide shot, and we are able to see the orientation of the train. And so, unfortunately, that forces us to move in and out constantly. So A, there's that. And then B, when I say passenger car number 4, I know it's confusing, but when these numbers aren't necessarily in order of, the cars on the train, or this is the entirety of it, it's a set differentiation. So passenger car number 2 was used earlier in Long's flashback. And passenger car number 1 was in the very beginning of the movie. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you on that.
All right. So I think in order to, I took for granted that a person reading this all the way through would have used the orientation of Long's half of this flashback to know, okay, this is the way the scene looks. This is what's happening to the train. It's positioned in such a way that I didn't have to re-explain that here. And maybe I should have. That way, all of these different slug lines would make sense.
As a reader reading it for the first time, and I don't think you're going to get anyone who's going to read it twice.
Yeah.
I just got lost in it, and I don't know how to simplify this and make it a little bit easier.
I hear you. So let's
like, I don't want to lose myself in here. I want to see the action, which is the important thing.
No. I get you. So this isn't going to make sense to the people watching, but if we think of my other screenplay that you like, which is the romantic comedy where we have the 2 rooms, and then we have a dream sequence happening at the same time within these 2 rooms. So we have 3 sets essentially, where the camera has to keep jumping back and forth, right? I essentially use the same method of like, okay, we're in this room now, we're on stage, right? And that is like a long sequence of like 6-7 pages. I know that's probably a little easier to follow because it's, we can conceptualize, okay, 2 rooms, and we don't go outside of the hotel room, of the hotel at all, right? We don't like see, the 2 rooms together, right? So I guess it's a little less complex, but in my mind, I'm not, technically, I'm not doing anything that's much different. I think, and you're absolutely right. Once again, I'm not trying to, view your criticism as coming from you necessarily, but just as a possible problem with the script, because you're absolutely right. I agree. This is probably going to be confusing. But given how screenplays, the way I know screenplays are written, the way they work, I don't know how to write this sequence any clearer and have it still be in screenplay format.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And to go back to the other script that you're referencing, you're right. It was over several pages, and I could very easily orient myself. Here we're talking about, slug line and, an action line, and a slug line and a couple action lines. And then it happens very quickly, and you have to kind of keep it in your head. So it's almost like it's just so much. And I know on screen, it would be completely obvious what's happening. Right?
Yeah.
I read through this a couple times, and I was thinking, I can see exactly what he's doing. I can see he's directing exactly how he wants this to be kind of shot here. You know what I mean? I know exactly where I am at all times, but the first time through, it's still jarring.
Sure.
Maybe because it is happening so quickly. There's a lot happening here real quick. So I would say we have to differentiate what it means to slide off the end of a cliff.
Sure.
But not, still connected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that
I definitely need to say that here.
Yeah.
I agree.
So if you want to keep it like that, I guess it'll be what it is, but
I don't necessarily want it. I mean, if there's a problem, like you said, a reader can get easily turned off, right? And just say, hey, I got to this part. It's time to throw it away. I thought it was going to be good, but it's actually crap. I'm not kicking this up to my agent or whatever, right?
Right.
Going back into the slush pile. So, gosh, I don't know, man. I mean, even though it violates my sense of screenwriting, maybe I should just write this as one big thing, and just have the one slug line, interior, exterior, train.
My issues really happened only when I got to like page 106. The first 2 pages I was totally cool with.
Yeah.
It was 106 for some reason. Once we got to the exterior continuous, that's where I started getting like so confused. So, I mean, maybe this is where you break in, even though it's violating. I know you want to show the entire train, but maybe this is one where you keep a couple of IE scenes, so people can just follow the story. But you're still describing what's happening with the train with relation to passenger car number 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know, but maybe there's just some way to kind of break that piece up that will help, because it all happens between here and the first half of 107. Really, it's that page and a half where I was just like, I thought I had it, and I went back again. I'm like, no, I still don't have it. So you're gonna see a lot of notes that question little things because I didn't realize until later that they're still connected. I'm like, oh,
totally.
gosh, I get it now. I think I get it. But I think it is my my duty to make sure that I'm looking at this as a virgin reader would, and if I get confused, that I need to report that to you.
No, that's fine, and I appreciate the feedback. To be honest, I always do. So I can see me cleaning this up substantially, and I think a lot of interior exterior slugs are going to help address this. So I think. I don't know if there's much more you want to discuss on this, but I think let this be a repeat of the gunfight.
Right.
Because, I didn't know really how this was going to go, right?
Yeah.
Just like the gunfight, I didn't really know. So it's kind of overwritten, I agree. And, what's funny is that I hesitated. I thought to myself that, okay, you know what, we're going to have a problem here because it does feel a little overwritten. And I suspect Brian is going to give me another one of those, this is the novelization of the movie or whatever. And I hesitated to write you and say, I know it's long. That note is not going to really help because of everything I'm saying right now that, I'm finding my way through it. Yeah. And there you go. It's like, to reiterate one of my concerns this late in the script, I'm constantly feeling the pressure to like truncate because I'm so close to the end of 120
Right.
pages.
I know.
And I fought that because, you had said in a previous episode, René, just write it out. If it hits 150 pages, who cares? Just write it the way you think it needs to be written, trim later. And so I leaned in that direction, and this is the result.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Just to kind of call out one thing, the gunfight was very clear. It just felt like there was so much like written there that I felt didn't need to be in the actual script.
Yeah,
I totally followed everything, whereas here I was just a little bit lost. So I didn't feel like it was overwritten at all, to be honest with you. I felt like I wanted to spend more time before and after it rather than during it. And I think it'd be like a perfect shooting script. Like I could see these little pages, like, okay, we got a shot here, interior. Okay, we got a shot here. You know what I mean? Like they're all like perfectly called out for the line producer, but the reader, it's a little bit overwhelming. Like the you know what I'm saying? Like if they see the fight, they're gonna kind of select all these different shots that you're giving them. You might just want to take this, and like for that page and a half, right? Like something cool happens.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Something disastrous happens. And Everett's really upset. The end.
Dude, I would save so many pages
It's
I
like a
could hit
one-page-
120 without editing.
Is this a treatment? No, that's a script. The good news is it can be in any language you want.
Dude, I'll truncate this thing down to a title page. Insert movie. Brackets. Genius.
Genius.
So minimalist.
Avant-garde. It's not a movie, and it's all movies. Wow.
Love
Blow
it.
my mind. All right. When I got to the part on page 108 when it says the passengers below her panic and then begin pulling on each other and climb higher, some fall.
Yeah.
I totally had the vision of Propeller Guy on
Oh, yeah. Of course.
I love it.
Come on.
Okay, so let's go to the end of the flashback, right before
Well,
the end.
before we move on,
Okay.
have you seen the movie Cliffhanger, Brian?
No, God, no. That's Stallone, right?
Yeah. You know,
No.
what's funny is that I am willing, I haven't done it yet, but I am willing to buy movies just so I can preserve, or rather have iconic scenes that really like moved me, right? That are readily watchable instead of having to like try to find a bootleg version of it on YouTube or whatever. And like, it's all like 240p resolution.
This is like such a fascinating prelude to this movie.
What are you saying?
What you're saying? I can't believe you're leading in with this.
Oh, well, this is the thing. It's not going to make much sense to you, but a lot of the opening sequence in Cliffhanger was inspiration for some of the dialogue here. I almost want you to just experience the opening sequence of Cliffhanger. You don't have to watch the whole movie, just the opening
240.
sequence. Huh?
In 240. What's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Just to see it, right? Just to like understand, because like at the time, like it was like, I can't believe that happened. It was one of those like genuine, I can't believe I just saw that kind of moments.
Yeah.
And this is like, of course, early 90s, right? If not late 80s. Anyway, I'll just spoil it for you. Basically, it starts off with, it's about mountain climbing. And Stallone is like he's some kind of like mountain climber rescuer, right? And his buddy is also an experienced mountain climber. He and his girlfriend, his buddy's girlfriend, they get stuck on this tenuous rock face, outcropping of rock. And she's not an experienced climber. Anyway, this guy twists his ankle, the friend, and so they have to get rescued. And they call in a chopper and Stallone, because he's, super guy. He's like free climbing to him, right? Just to show off his climbing skills. You got to establish that. Anyway, they set up this like line that they're going to attach themselves to and kind of like pull themselves to the helicopter. But it's like really windy, and so they got to hurry. And the friend, played by Michael Rooker, he gets across fine. He's experienced or whatever. He even kind of jokes around. He gets to the helicopter. The girlfriend now has to go, and she's scared, right? Inexperienced climber. And she's pulling herself. It's getting windier, and her rigging fails, like the buckle, right? And so now Stallone has to go out after her and try to like resecure her rigging, and she slips, and he's hanging on to her, right? But it's like this impossible situation. Like it shows that he's human. Like he's not just able to like pull her up. What's he gonna do? Freaking like curl this like 130-pound woman in all her gear up back to the line, and she's gonna pull herself. Anyway, so we watch her die, but like just the panic and all that, like I'm slipping, and he's begging her like, please pull yourself up, like just reach up, it's just like that helplessness. And I wanted to try to capture some of that here with Josephine saying, she's hearing the connection starting to give way. And Everett's begging her, you have to try. And so, she knows, I think she gets this feeling that she's going to die. And so,
Totally.
give the kid, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that gets captured here, but I'm going to explain this whole story. I'm going to make the director watch cliffhanger.
100% don't need to. because I felt like that was so strong.
Oh.
And I felt like it was conveyed so well that I was like, even though I knew what was going to happen before the thing even started, I was still like, oh man, sucks. And then of course, the way he wrote it, where she basically has decided that she's going to martyr herself for her child at this point. 'Cause she's like, well, one's better than none.
Yeah.
That's rough, man. Yeah, I felt like it was really moving, a really moving point. And it was something that would sit, it was strong enough that it would sit with him for his life, and color all of his emotions, and be something he'd have to, he's having nightmares probably every night because of this. This is, this is a horrific thing to happen, to be there,
Yeah.
So bad enough for the woman that he's going to live through it, even if she died, that was horrific, but now he's going to lose both of them. Like,
right.
Oh, that is rough. It's rough, but it's well done. So I thought that was great. I had no issue with this at all. It was just the technical things before that. But once we got to this part, I felt like it was totally on point.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, one last thing, Brian.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, because it's not a quickie. Go on.
Oh. When you get a chance, watch the beginning of Cliffhanger.
Okay.
And then also watch the beginning of Vertical Limit.
Oh boy.
Just the beginning. This is like a 15-minute obligation, Dude, I watch a lot of movies, bro. It's like I pick and choose what really like makes sense to me and what's awesome, and then I just store it away.
Just need to make a reel for me, like a 3-hour reel of all just the cool scenes of these crappy movies. They'll watch them. Oh, is the rest of the movie this good? Oh no, it's terrible. The best part of the movie. Okay. So let's get to the end of this.
All right.
Because the end of the flashback. Josephine and Lucas's face twist and panic screams. I mean, all that's great. Usually I'm not going to like make a hard request, but I think there's a real critical piece here that's missing. And that is a tie. That's a tie to what's happened and who's responsible, and that Everett knows that. And so
you want him to like look over and see Long in the distance?
I want him to see a couple guys. I want him to see someone. I want him to make that connection right there, because even though he's saying it, to see it happen, I mean, I know this is all in action, is I think going to just give you, again, I like the gut punch. I'm a big fan of that. And we've just got hit hard with the wife and daughter. And now he's looking for a place to put his anger. And this is 15 years from that point to 15 years now. That's the tie. And without it, it's a tie he's telling him. It's just not quite there yet. There. So I wrote, I was writing a little bit more than just like, hey, René, I think you should do this.
Yeah.
By this point, you had
2
me
pages.
kind of like, no, but you had me like, all emotionally attached to what was happening. So here, I'm just going to read my note, because I don't know what I wrote here. Maybe the luggage car. Okay. Oh, okay. So maybe the luggage car, unencumbered by the weight of the rest of the train, settles in on its side. Everett, the lone survivor, crawls out from the car and falls to his knees in grief at the cliffside. Through his tears and anguish, he sees the 2 men in the distance, the men who just robbed him of his family. So something there just to kind of close the circle. You know what I mean? Before the flashback ends. You write whatever you want or not at all, but I would say that this is a piece that I feel is, it's like, at this point, I want to see it. You know what I mean? Like, you watch the romantic comedy and you think things are going to happen. And when they're happening, okay, you get that emotional, like, okay, cool, that's good. I'm glad that box is checked. And this is when I was like, wow, without that, I felt like it was missing it. Like, I really want to see that early Long and Bao. And they're reacting to what just happened, which was accidental.
Yeah.
Right. But he doesn't know that. He doesn't know what's going on. He just knows the effect of it and what they just did. And they just made enemies for life. And the whole question of what did I do? What's so different about me? I'm just a train robber. I don't even harm women and children. why are you on my ass? And there's the answer. You know what I mean? It's not just the emotional thing, but here's why it's on you. So that's my thought on that.
I can work that in. He sees them riding away, like Long lingers a little bit to like look at the carnage, to take in the carnage.
Right. No loot for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Luggage cart is. That's my impression of your impression.
No, I know. He sounds German. I was going to be more absurd. Yeah, exactly. I was going to be more absurd and, Everett looks up and there's Long standing over him like, oh, excuse me, I want to get to that luggage over there.
Literally, as he's falling over, just kicks dirt in his face and gets the luggage.
Everett's like, oh, sorry about that. Let me twist my body a little more.
It would be interesting. I mean, I don't know if you're going to have the space for something like this, but it'd be interesting if he was like broke a leg or something. So he was a broken man too.
So I had, as I was writing this, I was like, okay, so he's trapped under luggage, which is why he can't really, that wasn't originally my idea that he was going to be trapped under luggage, right? I wanted it to just be, it's kind of a precarious situation. We don't know what's going to make these things fall. So he's trying to be a little gingerly, but then I thought, well, if your family's in danger, you're going to do whatever it takes to get to them. Something has to physically prevent you, right? So, okay, he's trapped under luggage. And then I thought, well, maybe, to really show like he's trying to get to them, his leg, he wrenches his leg, right, under some luggage or whatever to like get a little bit more, a little more leverage. And that's why he limps a little bit earlier in the movie. Like as he's walking around, he's got this like slight limp. And it's not explained. We don't know why. And then we see here, it's because of this situation. He's got this limp.
I like that. I think it'd be a nice little addition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he's literally a broken man. I think that's cool.
These are, these little additions are like, I file them back. I file them away in my head and I'll go back and insert them. Yeah. As like I feel. Like, so for instance, here's another thing I'm going to insert. We have people throughout the film telling Long, like they already have their gun drawn on him or drawn on a target. And they always tell Long, because Long looks like he's about to like do something about it. Like, you're not fast enough. I'm already drawn, right? You're not fast enough to kill me or do whatever you're going to do. And so in the hotel room, I have Everett saying that to Long, but now I've changed it to Stan saying it. And then that's when Long points the gun at the kid, right? In the bank, Sam says that to Long as he's aiming the gun at Patrick. You're not fast enough, right?
Yeah.
And at the end, Everett is going to have his gun drawn on Long and say, not even you are fast enough, right? And I want Long to say, I'm not married to this yet, but Long to say something like, why does everyone keep saying that? Or whatever. Or maybe he says it after he kills him.
Right.
And we realize, oh, he really is that fast, So
yeah.
Just little things like that. Just like little running things that people can like latch onto.
Yeah.
René,
I've been trying to say this for like the last, few months. It's the little details that make the script.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you said to me earlier? You made a big point and you were being...
No, yeah, it's what did I say? It's the little moments or something, right? The minor points. Scripts are made up of minor points. Whatever, Brian.
Scripts are made up of minor points is all I'm trying to tell you.
I get it.
All right. Well, finally it's like getting through to you. It's tough.
Thanks. This movie would be nothing without you, Brian. I don't want, and I don't mean that. I was saying that sarcastically, but that's actually, I actually mean that now that I think about it. No, not nothing, but you contribute a lot.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that it's having some positive impact. Okay. All right. So right after, I told you it's all these transitions. So now this is the last transition.
Yes, right? I know.
This is the one right after the flashback, and he's going to apologize And I didn't understand whatever it said when he said, you don't get to apologize to me, not for that. What was that? First off, what was the reference? Not for that. That implies that he can be apologetic for something else.
Well, not for that, meaning especially not for that.
Okay.
But no one would say that in the Old West. You know, there are a lot of like things that I had to change because I felt it was natural dialogue to say like, you know, not even you are fast enough. But I was like, that sounds too modern for me.
Yeah.
Right. So I would change that specific line to "You're not fast enough." You know, I think people were more direct back then.
Yeah.
So here, he can't. I don't think it would be natural for anyone to say, especially not for that. Or I could just strike that altogether.
Not for that.
Huh?
Strike not for that.
Yeah, I could just be like, you don't get to apologize, right? But I just wanted it to be, you know, just have him have something else to say to add that kind of like syncopation to his dialogue, you know?
I know. I think it's stronger, like you just said, though.
So no, not for that.
Yeah.
All right.
No, you don't get to apologize. I think that's cool. So it's like you get this emotional reaction, which is natural because now we the audience and reader are coming off of this horrific flashback, right? That they didn't see coming, and I've known about, and still is hard to read.
Yeah.
Long feels like crap. He's going to apologize for it. Everett is suitably pissed off, right, about this. It's like, you don't get to apologize. And then there's like, I felt like, you know, the music is swelling, and all of a sudden it's like, fine, we can sell this later. And so, I was like, wow, that happened so fast.
There's a beat that was there originally, but I removed it to keep Long's bit of dialogue in this page. So it was, you know, not for that. And then Long waits. Fine. We can settle this later. So there was a beat before Long replied.
It's not just, okay, I know what you're saying. I felt like even with that, it's not quite. A couple things. It feels like it's still a bit of a too much to take transitionally, even with the beat. And secondarily, there is an aspect of Long that I think can be mined here, that I think is I think it's appropriate. So I'm going to give you a note that's more of a discussion point or something for you to think about. Here's what I wrote.
Fine, I'm not sorry.
I like that he wants to change and say, you know, everything you just said is valid. I get that you're pissed. I understand why but we have pressing problems. That, I mean, the impact of the scene, you know, and that they have to get this moving again makes total sense to me. So I really don't have a problem with that. What I wrote is he needs to acknowledge the situation. Like, we both have lost loved ones. We both grieve. But right now, we need to focus on survival. We can talk about this later. Because I think that him taking everything that Everett just said, you know, and saying, I just lost my brother. Okay, I know what you're going through. I just lost my family as well, is a valid thing for him to say, because he would emotionally be reacting, but also emotionally be feeling, you know, this loss. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's valid that he says that. And I think it's something that helps inform later this bond between the two of them. They both lost. They both have an understanding of each other. And while they may not like each other in some respects, they have some sort of a mutual appreciation that you're starting to see develop. I think it's kind of leveling the two of them still, even though, you know, Everett just came off this high emotion thing. Bao is not going to give it all up and just say, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah,
I'm just as valid. What I'm going through is just as valid.
No, totally. So, I hear you. And I think the aspect of Long that you are pointing to does exist, I just think that in this situation, Long would revert back to a pragmatist. Like, hey, we've got bigger problems here. Let's just get back on track. I thought I could solve this with an apology. It's not going to work. Let's get back to what I know is I can count on, which is this bad situation. I'm not convinced yet that I want Long to be disconnected emotionally with Everett. Mainly because, look, I mean, what?
A page and a half later, he's pretty well. A page later, he's pretty well connected.
Well, he's willing to go with him to, I mean,
he's not willing to.
I don't want them to
unlock him.
What's that?
He's willing to unlock him and go with him, and then smile at him.
I don't want them to necessarily like each other or be friends.
I get that.
That whole, hey, let me tell you this, let me be sarcastic with you and have it be funny is, less about, hey, we're friends now, and more about congeniality, amiableness. Long is, let me just say it, a lot of Long is me, right? Like in dire situations, like you know where we worked, right? Like I got through that. I coped with gallows humor, and I think people around me found that funny, right? Like we were all.
One person around you did.
What's that?
One person definitely did.
Well, yeah, I think like the sales team, like they picked up on my humor. Yeah. Remember when Bobby used to sneeze, and he had those like multiple 8 sneezes in a row?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Bobby. I think it was Bobby. Anyway, and he was like in the other department, right? And I would just yell out a random number like 3 more because it was kind of like this idea like, oh, he'll sneeze 3 more times, and we would see how close I got, and other people started to kind of join in, and then the sales, that big fat sales guy, bit my bit. You remember this?
Yeah.
He would start doing it before me, and I was like, anyway, the point I'm making though is that even if you don't like someone, even though you're not supposed to like this person, I think that you can still find this communal bond, especially men. Men can kind of compartmentalize and somehow work together based on this shared goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I was trying to capture is Long's his personality is infectious and is admirable, even if you don't like him. Like in the face of this very dire situation, he still hasn't lost his kind of his pluckiness and his ability to just be sarcastic about things.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't lost his personality to the situation. And I think, basically, I should have written this, but Everett laughs in spite of himself is what I think I should have written.
That came across anyway.
Oh, okay.
That came across. It just felt like the bridge between the bottom of 108 and there was tenuous. And so first thing, I think that having them on somewhat equal ground does provide a little bit more leverage for them to have the rest of the things that you want to have happen. I stand by the request to have him, or to have something else there that's a little bit more substantiated between that emotional hit and what he wants to do, because I think he needs to acknowledge the one thing about it is you lost your wife and your child. That's a horrific thing to do, right? You've heard the other side of it. You've heard what happened, that it was an accident. right? Even though there was a nefarious thing happening, it was not ever intentional to kill someone, right? So you've heard the other side of this already. God, I don't know where I was going with this. I'm sorry, I got a little wrapped up in my own thoughts here. My point, I guess, is that okay. So you've lived with this for 15 years. You've built up this anger and this animosity, and you've targeted your rage at me. But now that's being dispelled a little bit because you're getting to know who I am. That I'm not such a bad guy. I've already saved your life, as well as people that you care for. You've heard my humor. I've lost people as well. So it's almost like part of me thinks like, how dare Everett be the one who's living in this grief still like this for 15 years? Even though it's understandable, it's like at this point, it's going to be worn down a little bit. And if nothing else, I like the idea that Bao's going to check him even after this. It's like he needs to snap him back into reality. And I think maybe, saying for now we need to leave. I'm willing to take you with us, whatever. I don't think it's going to snap him into any sort of reality. I think a little bit of a punch, a little bit of a jab back is like, enough to kind of get Everett, who's in this almost like this this world he's constructed. It's almost enough to bring him out of it and say, yeah, they're okay. There are things to deal with right now. My grief is my grief. If you want to compartmentalize it, that would be, I guess, the conduit to do that.
Okay.
Wow, you just said a lot of words. I still don't agree with what you just said.
No. It's not that. It's I guess I'm looking for more like a direct action item here.
I gave you direct action item. I gave you exact words.
A direct action item that I agree with. Like, I'm willing.
Long could say, wah.
Wah. Do you know what this is?
He invented that.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want me to call the ambulance?
I wish I could make a callback, but my memory is so bad. But I was going to say it's the world's smallest ball crusher. What was the thing we were going to bring into there? Earlier in the show, man.
We were talking about the meat hook and the balls, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the world's smallest meat hook in the balls. Can we move on? I don't have a lot of solutions. I have recommendations. I have areas that I think are problematic. I think I've given you
Okay.
my
How about this, Brian? How about this? You don't get to apologize. They're at an impasse, right? Long and Everett stare at each other across this impasse. And then something happens externally, like they hear orders from the darkness, from the soldiers, like let it burn or something like that, right? Bringing their attention back into the problem at hand.
Okay, so my only issue with this is this, okay? Emotionally, as a reader and as a viewer of this, my heart is with Everett at this point. And
there's more to this. There's more. Give me one more thing. So
sorry.
Then Long will say, they'll both turn to each other, and Long can say something like, I know you're in pain. Maybe he can be a little more sympathetic and say, I can't imagine what it's been like for you to carry this pain for 15 years or something, right?
Right.
But we have to survive now. Does that work?
Yeah, you're right. Pragmatically, it makes total sense. But again, emotionally, my heart's there, and I want, because I like Long, I want my heart to go to him as well. So I'm still going to tag on to what you just said. I cannot imagine, living with this pain for 15 years. I've only lived with losing my brother for the last 3 days.
You don't see me crying about it.
And I'm over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about it. Consider it. I think it's valid because I think I like the idea that then I want to feel for both these guys. I don't want to just feel for Everett, especially with what's about to happen, because it feels almost like Long is somewhat doing what he's doing, not because he's a good guy, but because he wants to do something to make it up to Everett. He's going to help him through this. He's going to help, save these people as, somewhat of a penance. I don't want it to be a penance. I want it to be because it's his choice. I want him to go in because he's actually a good guy who does some things that are, not so good, but he's a good guy, and he's going to make a decision to go and save people on his own accord.
Okay.
Like, he doesn't feel like he has anything to apologize for, really, even though he's going to apologize, because what are you going to do in that situation? I'm sorry, it was never our intention. No one wants to hear that.
I mean,
I'm just saying, it's not like, I finally got that woman and that child. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, of course you feel horrible for that, right? But does he feel horrible that his brother is just killed?
well, I think it's different. I mean, this is a
different,
false.
I'm not trying to false equivalency. I'm not trying to equate the two. I'm just trying to say that loss has occurred on both sides, right? And I think it's okay to address that because then Long, I think, is stronger. What he's about to do, or the motivation behind that is stronger. It's because he wants to do it, versus it could be read the other way here.
What's the other way?
The other way is, again, like that he's doing it because he feels like he's got to do something. He's going to let his friends go, and he's going to try and stay behind and do the right thing and prove that he's a good guy, or do whatever.
So that's the way, more or less, that's how I'm writing it, is that he feels he owes Everett something. Like, he's got this now new surrogate family, and now that Long has realized, wow, I just killed his family, I need to help him save his new family, at the very least. That was the intention. That's why we hear the woman screaming and all of that, and so... because Long is not necessarily a good guy, not in the sense of, like, what we think of good guys. I mean, we just watched him murder people on the train, watched him murder people in the street. He's a robber, he runs with people who kill women. He's not
One guy.
whatever. I mean, we have to imagine over 15 years,
Yeah.
he's been with other people who are murderers, who are probably rapists, who have done a lot of bad things, right? So that's the thing. It's like, I don't want to make Long a hero necessarily. Like, he's just a misunderstood guy, he is a bad guy who just happens to be doing the right thing here.
Okay. He's a bad guy, but his emotions are valid, is all I'm saying. And I think to have him take the position of just doing this to try and make, to help a guy out, it just devaluates him to some extent. I want Long to do things because he wants to. I get the feeling that, he would, if Everett wasn't there and he heard someone screaming, he would still go. That's the feeling I get. Is that wrong?
That's not how I want Long to be portrayed as.
I might just be projecting then.
All right. Well, that's possible. But if I have written him in the way that makes you think that, then there is a problem with the way I'm writing him. So that has to be addressed.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. It's hard for me to separate, living with this character for months and what's actually on the page at this point. So
I wanted to, I'm trying to add points where Long is selfish, right? So earlier when he gets broken out of jail by Everett, I wrote a girl who gets mobbed by a bunch of zombies, and Everett wants to help her, and Long holds him back. And so I wanted that to be evidence of, look, Long is looking out for himself, right? Now, it may also be practical, like he assesses,
That's how I take it.
Well, okay, fine. But I want it to be, I don't want it to be, I want it to at least be plausible that it's because, Long doesn't really care about this stranger.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So maybe I need to have more things like that.
More bad Long?
Yeah. And maybe we don't have to make him like evil. We can just say like, have some dialogue like, we can't save everybody, right? Or, I don't know, just things like that along the way. Like, we need to look after ourselves first. And maybe that's why Zeke says what he says, because it's a callback. And now Long is kind of like, wait a second, I'm being rehabilitated here towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Second draft, Brian. These are second draft conversations.
They might be. All right. I'm going to the last page here. Although I think I've kind of talked about this. I'm just responding to the to 110 right now. Yeah, I kind of got where you were going with this. That people do laugh. Have that kind of not something's funny, but just laughing as a kind of core response to something that's going on. It's just like, this is, maybe it's the absurdity, or maybe it's everything just kind of aggregating. I like that this happens. It felt a little bit quick based on, even though he just told this flashback, in the movie, that's going to happen. That flashback's going to happen awfully quick, because you do have a lot of just scenes that are going on. It's action, it's cool, and everything like that. And in reality, he just bum rushed the guy, right? And now they're laughing afterwards, which I guess does happen sometimes between friends. They could fight and then laugh it off or whatever, but these guys aren't really friends. I think there's something that's building, and there's a mutual respect to some, maybe a professional respect, for the way they conduct themselves. It just felt like it was maybe a little quick to get there.
Sure, absolutely.
You know what I mean? But I like the direction of it. I like where it was going there. So I'm not really sure what point to give you here, other than
he doesn't have to laugh. Long doesn't have to smile. It can be, I was inspired by your speech. Long hands him his gun, and Everett, considers shooting him for a moment or something like that, right?
Right.
But he doesn't, and they just walk off.
Yeah, I guess in my head, of course, I'm watching the movie as I'm reading it.
Yeah. So
in my head, he unshackles him. Everett punches him in the face, says, "All right, let's go." You know what I mean? Just like you.
That's a little too movie-esque, bro.
Let's go.
That one's for Mr. Bear.
Let's go. That one's for Mr. Bear. This is Mr. Fist. I think I'm burnt, dude.
All right, man.
There are a couple of little things in here you can read through, but I've given you the stuff that's substantial. All the other stuff is just little ticky-tack things that I just questioned.
No, this was a good conversation. I think it can be really tightened up. I hear you on the emotional content. I think, in second draft, once I've kind of, truncated pages above, and I can get this portion closer to like the 90-page mark.
Right.
I'll feel a little more comfortable, kind of like, I mean, as you said, these are very pivotal scenes. Like, we are essentially at the halfway mark of the movie here, where it becomes the turn, right? Where they're going to the third act. So, it's crunch time for the characters, and they need to make this decision if they're going to be able to work together to survive or not.
Right.
So yeah, I think you'll be happier with the second draft.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. These are, this is the this is a very, really, like I said in the very beginning, this is a critical 10 pages.
Yeah.
There's a lot you're trying to accomplish here, man. And I think that the structure of it is all here. I just think it needs a little bit of fine tuning just to get it emotionally balanced. But hopefully you consider some of the things I said that I know you don't agree with, because I think there's a merit to a lot of it. And I wouldn't really stick to it as hard as I have. As you know, I'll come off a point if you push back too hard, like, oh, well, it's a minor thing. I think some of these are some major considerations. So, I'm sure it's going to ruminate in your head anyway, and I never know how it's going to appear on the next draft, but I'm excited to see what you do with it, with today's feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'll be good. It'll be fine.
And I care. I
know you care, Brian. I know you care. Emphasis. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Brian? I know we're at the 2.5 hour mark.
Woohoo! No, I think I am done.
Okay, great. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a subscribe and a like. If you have feedback, leave a comment below or on our website, letswritethismovie.com. And we will see you in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.